Hello, this is Sarah with Parents Against Loss. I am going to introduce you to the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction Act, the UCCJEA. There's also a UCCJA, I believe, as well as Parental Kidnapping Prevention Act, which is PKPA. They all three kind of work together with each other. Kind of want to look at Hague Convention education as well, and also child support issues, because there is a child support federal act that you want to look at. This is all information that you want to look at when you are dealing with interstate custody issues, interstate child placement, that sort of thing. But this particular binder is focusing on these two issues. This would be a binder for parental rights advocates and family members who wanted to learn a little bit more about these two particular acts. And this is kind of a insight into what kind of information I have and the education that I've been gaining on these particular subjects. All right, so we're going to take a look at this binder. If you want to put together one of these binders for yourself, if you're dealing with these issues in a child custody case, whether it's Department of Social Services custody or a divorce custody case, they're both pertinent because they're federal laws. Federal laws trump state laws. And so if you're dealing with these things in court, these federal laws are going to be enforceable more so than your state procedures and state laws. So here we go. This is also for North Carolina. So you want to consider that when you're watching this video, is it might be different for your state. All right. So we have a little bit of an introduction to interstate compacts and a historical perspective. We have the North Carolina Administrative Code, 70A, period 0107, when abuse, neglect, or dependency is found. This administration code talks about when an investigation reveals the presence of abuse, neglect, or dependency, the social worker who conducted the assessment shall make every effort to provide personal written notice to the following persons or agencies. And it does include any agency with whom the court has vested legal custody. So if you came from a different state, you came from a different county, that sort of thing, the social worker who initially investigates is responsible, according to North Carolina Administrative Code, to get in touch with any other agency that might be involved. This talks a little bit about child custody jurisdictional issues, the UCCJEA, PKPA, and Hague Convention. It's a really good article. I would recommend that you look it up online. And everything that I'm showing you, you can find online. Look it up and read it. It's a very good article. Kind of covers, what it is, what it looks like, where you can find these things, practices, that sort of thing. This is a little bit of a summary about the UCCJEA. It's Child Custody Jurisdiction Enforcement Act summary. You can find that online at the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws. Here we have North Carolina's Chapter 50A, which covers Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction Enforcement Act and Uniform Deployed Parents Custody and Visitation Act. This would be all the statutes on those. You have Rules of Civil Procedure. Now, the reason I have this in here is because the statutes talk about commencement. All right. And so I have the definition here of the Rules of Civil Procedure, Chapter 1A. It says Rule 3 right here. Civil action is commenced by filing a complaint with the court. The clerk shall enter the date of the filing on the original complaint, and such entry shall be prima facie evidence of the date of filing. It's really important when you're creating arguments and defenses based on these particular federal acts. Talks about jurisdiction and venue. Now, there are so many different kinds of jurisdictions that are involved with these federal acts, so I would recommend you really researching what kind of jurisdictions are implemented in North Carolina when it concerns these federal acts. But this comes from See, some content in this chapter is based on Janet Mason, Termination of Parental Rights in North Carolina, UNC School of Government 2012. This is a really good chapter. Now we talk about petitions. In a Department of Social Services custody case, you are supposed to, as a social worker, as we just covered, contact any known agencies. So that means asking the parent if there are any other known custody orders, any determinations made, anything like that. You know, the affidavit of status of minor children is supposed to come with the petition, and that is supposed to clearly tell the court the child's last known addresses for the last 5 years. This is the reason that they do this, is because the petition has to have that information. Petition or an affidavit attached to petition shall contain the information required by GS 50A209. That's basically saying it has to know the addresses because the courts are responsible for making these decisions based on their competency. If they don't have competency, if they don't have jurisdiction, they cannot make these arguments. So social workers are supposed to, when they're talking to the parent or caretaker, guardian, the legal representative of the child, they're supposed to find this information out. It is supposed to go in the petition. If it's not, that's a big problem. Talks about termination of parental rights. Now, in North Carolina, you can proceed with termination of parental rights 2 ways. You can do it by a petition, or you can do it by a motion in the cause. So a motion in the cause would be a consolidated action within the underlying case, and your termination of petition would be an entirely different proceeding. You know that you have different ones if your termination of parental rights has a different lettering, like your juvenile file generally says JA in North Carolina. Your termination file has the same numbers, but it generally has JT. So juvenile action, juvenile termination. Well, this talks about that even when you're doing the separate proceeding of termination of parental rights, you do have to do another affidavit of status of the minor children. One of the tricky things that courts will do is if the UCCJEA Act is in question, they'll do a termination of parental rights and say, oh, we had the children here for the last 6 months. But actually, North Carolina case law says that if you have an underlying proceeding, that is the determination start date. When you argue UCCJEA, you don't argue the first or the termination petition that's talking about the affidavit of status of minor children. You argue the very first day that they took the kids and they had that court decision made. That's what you're arguing, the day that the court decision was made. So that would be the non-secure custody hearing. Here's your criteria for non-secure custody. Now, your child placement services is really important. I have this in here because I have a really big issue with quote-unquote dirty hands. Dirty hands is when you're purposely placing children in a state that does not meet the determination that a court can make for the child to be placed in that state. Now you can do temporary. If there's an extreme circumstances, you can take children. However, if there is not an extreme circumstance and you're not questioning the UCC, or you are questioning the UCCJEA, you do not have the right as a court or social services to place children improperly. So that's why that is in there, and quite a bit is outlined. So now here's an article that's really good. It's applying UCCJEA temporary emergency jurisdiction in abuse, neglect, and dependency cases. This comes out of, on the civil side, by UNC, University of North Carolina, does a really good article here. And this is actually a really good article because when I was talking about the different jurisdictions, emergency jurisdiction is one of them. Continuing jurisdiction is another one, and these all play a part in an argument that you would make for your case. Now, these are very important case law, pertinent case law according to the UCCJEA. Many of them do come out of this article referencing temporary emergency jurisdiction. I will read off the names of the cases to you, but I will not go through them. I'll just tell you that this collection is very powerful when it comes to your UCCJEA defense and attack of jurisdiction, because you can challenge jurisdiction at any point in time. Case law says so. So if you have a UCCJEA issue, I would get your custody determinations from other states together. I would get your proof of substantial relationship with your home state together, your home state information. There's more than goes into it than just custody orders. There's actually different things that come together to make that child determination. And that's what these case law, that's what this case law says, part of it. So we have, let me see, I'll show you here. In the matter of NTU minor child, it's a Buncombe County case filed 1st of July 2014. Filed 1st of December 2015 in the matter of JH. It's a really good one. In the matter of EXJ and AJJ minor children, filed 17th June 2008. Filed 16th of December 2008 in the matter of JWS, a minor child. It comes out of Carteret County. Supreme Court case, filed 28th of June 2007 in the matter of ARG. Court of Appeals, August 21st, 2007, Williams v. Larry Walker and Marie B. Walker. That's an interesting case. Filed 19th of September 2006 in the matter of MB. Filed November 17th, 2006 in the matter of TRP. And the last case I have in here, filed 6th of August 2002, Henry Crystal Gale Broad, Stephen W. Broad, Matthew L. Broad, juveniles. That would be back before we had rules saying that juveniles' names had to be kept confidential, so they were only initialed or given alternate names. So, but that's a really good case as well. So, that is some good stuff if you're putting together, like I said, your couple federal acts, violations, defense, counterattack when you're challenging jurisdiction, that sort of thing. And that comes from Parents Against Loss. Look some of those things up. It's some good information. You can look up some videos online on YouTube about UCCJEA defense. It's generally going to be in the same for the states because it's a federal act, but you want to look at your state statutes, state law or whatever that is, so you can make sure that your defense is in accordance to the case law, the practices in your state when enacting this federal law. So it's kind of like a, goes hand in hand sort of thing. And that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope you got some good resources, and I hope this helps out some families in North Carolina get back to where they're going if that's what we need to do.